Imagine the earth quaking beneath your feet. The ground roars with ferocity as if awakening from a deep slumber. In mere seconds, the world as you know it crumbles into chaos. The devastation of an earthquake is unfathomable. Entire buildings collapse into a cloud of dust in seconds. Cities are reduced to rubble, and the landscape is forever altered. This is not just a story of catastrophic destruction, nor is it merely a tally of lost lives. These are the incredible true stories of ordinary people overcoming extraordinary odds under the most impossible of circumstances. Marvel at the incredible resilience of the human spirit amidst the greatest of recent tragedies in today's episode of Ready, Set, Disaster. In the ancient heart of Turkey and Syria, history whispers through scenic landscapes. Two ancient lands that cradle the heart of civilization boast a rich tapestry woven from the threads of diverse geography, history, and culture. Turkey, straddling Europe and Asia, is a land of contrasts. From the bustling metropolis of Istanbul to the serene shores of the Aegean Sea and the rugged mountains of the east, its history is a mosaic of empires: the Hittites, the Byzantines, and the Ottomans, each leaving an indelible mark on its cultural heritage. Syria, with its ancient cities like Damascus and Aleppo, has been a crossroads of trade and culture for millennia. The vibrant bazaars, the timeless architecture, and the resilient spirit of its people reflect a legacy that has endured through the sands of time. Together, these regions share a cultural richness that is as profound as it is diverse. Yet beneath this cradle of civilization lies a volatile secret. The lands of Turkey and Syria are perched atop a seismic powder keg, the result of tectonic plates in perpetual conflict. The East Anatolian Fault, where the Arabian and Eurasian plates grind against each other, and the North Anatolian Fault, one of the world's most active seismic zones, create a landscape perpetually on edge. On February 6, 2023, the Earth spoke with a roar as two colossal earthquakes, magnitudes 7.7 and 7.6, shattered the tranquility of the night, leaving behind a trail of devastation that forever changed the lives of thousands. This latent energy erupted with the catastrophic force of around 32 Hiroshima atomic bombs. The first powerful quake struck in the early hours of the morning while most people were at home in bed sleeping. The epicenter was near the Turkish city of Gaziantep, which is around 150 miles north of the Syrian border. The second earthquake, just hours later at 1:30 p.m. local time, was further north in central Turkey and measured 7.5 magnitude. This seismic event was not just a natural disaster, but a tragic chapter in the long, storied history of a region already marked by resilience and survival. As the sun rose, casting a light on the unimaginable destruction, the scale of the tragedy became clear. Entire communities lay in ruins, homes reduced to rubble, and countless lives were thrown into disarray. 55,000 people were killed that day. Life, as it was known in cities like Kahramanmaraş and Hatay, changed in the blink of an eye. Buildings that stood for decades crumbled, streets split open, and the human spirit was put to its toughest test. These are their stories. Gülhan is a bright and energetic young girl who shares a home with her devoted mother Özlem. They lived in the heart of a close-knit community, where the bonds of family and friendship are woven as tightly as the threads of an Ottoman rug. Gülhan is 17 years old in her final year of high school. She dreams of going to college and becoming a kindergarten teacher. Özlem works at the supermarket and is supporting her family as a single mother. They just rented their home in Osmaniye a few months ago, not knowing the danger to come. On the fateful morning of February 6, 2023, their lives were irrevocably changed when the earth beneath them roared to life. Before Gülhan could make sense of what was happening, the walls around her began to crumble. She sprinted for the doorway, fueled by instinct and adrenaline, as the shaking threw her violently to the floor. She tried to reach the door from her bedroom, but a wardrobe smashed down upon her ankle, crushing her bones in an instant. She screamed in agony as the wardrobe trapped her in place. The quaking continued unrelentingly. Darkness and dust filled the air and it became hard to breathe. Gülhan was trapped deep in the building, in total darkness and isolation. Uslam became trapped closer to the exit of the apartment. There was a door behind her when the building came down. All she could do was think of the safety of Gulhan. As a parent, you don't care for yourself, but only for your children. She called out to her baby but couldn't hear anything in return. Uslam didn't know if her precious Gulhan was alive or dead. Gulhan could not see a thing, but she could hear her mother's voice in the rubble. "Kazim, Kazim, my girl, where are you?" She was shouting back, but her mother couldn't hear her faint cries. She was trapped too deep inside the building. Gulhan found a stone and hit a door to make some noise. This was all she could do to signal to her mother that she was alive and in grave danger. Uslam found a rock and broke through the door, bringing light into her would-be tomb. She cried out to the neighbors for help, but they were all too panicked to lend a hand. In the wake of a severe earthquake, the danger is seldom over. Aftershocks, those relentless tremors that follow a major earthquake, become a constant, terrifying presence. These seismic echoes can be nearly as devastating as the main earthquake, toppling already weakened structures and fraying the nerves of survivors. Uslam would have to rely on herself for salvation. Fortunately for Uslam, her biggest fear became her greatest opportunity. An aftershock sent waves of energy and pounded the already weakened structure. Terrified that she would become further trapped, she held her hands above her head as the dust and debris shifted. When it had passed, Uslam saw the rubble had fallen in such a way that she could escape. Desperate to reach her daughter, she ignored the pain from broken ribs and battled with fierce courage. Making her way above ground, she finally heard the only thing a mother wants to hear. She heard Gulhan's voice. She knew her daughter was alive. Hope turned to despair as Gulhan was badly hurt. Time was of the essence. Every second felt like an eternity. She couldn't see her, but she could hear her. She shouted for help, but everyone was in shock. The building was new. Their belongings, their memories, all buried. And here she was, fighting to save her child's life. Gulhan's voice could be heard through a tiny hole in what was left of the building. All Uslam could do was dig. At first, no one could reach her as the aftershocks were continuing. People were in shock, and only her mother tried to help. Even with her broken ribs, she tried to pull Gulhan out of a hole that even a cat couldn't pass through. Eventually, more relatives and rescuers came to help. There was no light, only the light from her phone. The rescuers were shining a flashlight in to make her more comfortable because the dark made her feel afraid. It felt like years under there. She was thinking about her mother because she has cancer, and she worried about her health. Gulhan took charge. Despite the pain, she instructed the rescue effort and gave clear directions. She told them where to dig and instructed them to bring in a saw. They were able to cut the wardrobe and free her leg from it. The pain was unbearable, and Gulhan went in and out of consciousness with every stroke of the saw. Eventually, the rescuers were able to free her and reunite mother and daughter after many hours of uncertainty and turmoil. In all the chaos and instability, some extraordinary people shined through as they worked to save lives. One of these heroes was Murad Onai. His heart was gripped by a relentless fear that drove him to run barefoot across the city with a fixed destination: his sister's apartment. The first 3 floors had given way under the savage force of the earthquake, trapping his sister's family in what remained of the building. Arriving breathless and frantic, Murad found the apartment building a shell of its former self, the upper floors sagging dangerously over the void where the first floors once stood. Without hesitation, he and his 18-year-old son began a desperate excavation, their hands tearing at the chunks of concrete and twisted rebar. As Murad and his neighbors worked together, more and more people came to help. They dug without pause, keenly aware that every second was a battle against time itself. Soon, their small group grew as others joined, eager to lend their strength to the cause. The sight of the collapsing building, once home to Murad's sister and her family on the second floor, was now tragically compressed under the weight of the third. Despite their tired hands sore from the unwavering digging and muscles aching from the effort, the group refused to stop. Even as night fell, their work didn't pause. Bright lights were set up, casting long shadows over the debris as volunteers kept digging through the darkness. Their hard work eventually led to a heart-stopping discovery. Beneath layers of broken concrete and twisted metal, they found 4 survivors. Carefully, the team freed them from the rubble's hold, pulling them into the open. Cheers and tears filled the air as the survivors were brought to safety, showing everyone the power of working together in tough times. The rescue was a spark of hope, yet the search was far from over. They continued to find Murad's family. Then, they heard a faint voice coming from under a stone. It was Katiha, Murad's 15-year-old niece, calling for water. They couldn't see Katiha yet, but they could hear her, and that was enough to renew their vigor. They worked with what they had, makeshift tools and sheer willpower. 36 hours after the quake, they finally reached her. Cheers erupted as Katiha was carefully lifted from her prison of concrete and carried to an ambulance. Her first request was touchingly mundane: her makeup kit. His niece's rescue, though a moment of triumph, was overshadowed by a grievous loss. She was the only survivor among the 5 members of her family found in the wreckage. Murad and other volunteers continued searching until professional rescuers with sensing equipment took over. But there were no more signs of life, and the search was called off. Fatima and Hassan, days before the disaster, life was a picture of ordinary bliss. However, they did not know their whole life would be turned upside down in one night. Hassan, a retired government official, found joy in his second career as a taxi driver, navigating the charming streets of their town. Fatima, a devoted housewife and savvy saver, took pride in their home, a sanctuary built from years of hard work and simple pleasures. But on the night of February 6th, their world was shattered by the ferocious power of the Earth's movement. The ground beneath their apartment writhed and buckled as the walls that had witnessed their lives crumbled around them. The sound of their building collapsing was deafening, a monstrous roar that silenced the city's usual nighttime serenade. In the aftermath, amidst the stifling darkness and powdered concrete, Fatima's spirit emerged formidable and fierce. With hands raw and bleeding, she tore through the debris, her heart pounded with a singular focus: to find Hassan. Calling out into the darkness, her voice finally met his faint, desperate replies. Against all odds, their voices bridged the void between them. With nothing but bare hands and strength of her will, she cleared a path for Hassan, pulling him from the brink of despair into the safety of her arms. The sun rose on a landscape of loss and ruin. The earthquake had not discriminated in its fury. Homes, lives, and memories lay in ruin across 11 cities. Fatima and Hassan, though safe in each other's embrace, faced the stark reality of their shattered existence. Everything material they had cherished was gone. Fatima, Hassan, and their son found solace and survival in a tent settlement. The comforts of their past life, a distant memory. Yet, in this community of shared loss and collective hope, the human spirit flourishes. Fatima, ever resilient, has become a beacon for other women, sharing her strength and encouraging unity. I've always been independent and self-sufficient, and I know that things will get better in time. I will continue to do everything I can for my husband and my son, no matter what life throws our way. While the earth itself does not discriminate, the scale of devastation often tells a different story. This is a story of neglect and oversight. The threat of earthquakes is well known in this region, yet the buildings that crumbled under the quake's fury were not built to code. Experts had long warned of the seismic dangers lurking beneath Turkey's landscape. The fault lines had warned the people, but were not given attention. The tremors of February 6 did not just shake the earth, they shook the conscience of a nation. Decades of economic booms, driven by a burgeoning construction industry, had propelled Turkey forward. Yet this progress was built on shaky foundations. Laws were manipulated, safety protocols sidelined, all in pursuit of profit. It was a gamble that placed millions of lives in jeopardy. Things have to change. Earthquakes don't kill people. Collapsing buildings do. It's not merely a natural disaster, but a human-made catastrophe. a preventable catastrophe caused by neglect and greed. Although Turkey's construction codes are aligned with modern earthquake engineering standards, enforcement was lax or non-existent. This lack of enforcement has led to the collapse of thousands of buildings that should never have been approved in the first place. The road to recovery is twofold. There is the physical rebuilding of cities, but there is also the need for a seismic shift in policy and perspective. The people demand assurances that the lives lost will not be in vain, and accountability that those who were negligent will be held responsible. For the survivors, the path to recovery is ongoing. Gulhan, a once vibrant teenager, now grapples with the physical and emotional scars left by her ordeal. Fatima and Hassan, having lost nearly everything, are piecing together their existence in a makeshift tent settlement, while Murad, haunted by the loss of family members, channels his grief into rebuilding. Let's honor their memories as a new foundation is being laid. These are the incredible true stories showcasing the resilience of the human spirit in the face of extraordinary obstacles. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to find out what happens next when ordinary people are pushed to their limits of life and death in the face of the unthinkable. Ready, set, disaster.